Good morning, everybody. Just for distraction and noise in the background, I'm going to ask that everybody mute their volume. And I'm sure I could figure that out, but I feel like it's early and I've got so many other things going on. I'm going to ask you to do it yourself. Yourself. So thank you. And thanks for tuning in so bright and early today on a beautiful Friday morning. It looks like it's going to be a great day. I'm Nikki Vincent, the Executive Director of ACG Minnesota, and I was just thinking, wow, remember when we used to do these live in person? I miss those days, but I'm confident they will return. And as we continue our virtual programs and content sharing, we just thought it was important to really take a look at Minnesota companies who are shifting and pivoting the way that they work or how they worked before. So we're really excited to hear from Ben today and talk about what's going on over at WOODCHUCK. But before that, as always, we just have a few announcements. So again, if you do have audio on, please mute yourself, and we will be taking questions throughout, and we'll do that through the chat. First and foremost, I just want to again say good morning and welcome. Know that you're in our thoughts and our prayers as we go through this crazy time, and we hope that you and yours are staying healthy and safe and sane. As things are moving quickly, we really are just trying to be a resource here at ACG to our members and to you. So we just say tune in when you can. And if you're not able to, we do put the audio clips on our website. So for this program and for our also doing Tuesday Lunch and Learns at noon, we do member-only happy hours on Thursdays at 4:30. Those audio clips from all of our content are put on our website. And for those of you who actually don't know who ACG Minnesota is, we are a global networking organization focused on driving growth in the middle market. We have almost 400 members here locally in Minnesota and over 15,000 globally. There's a chapter in almost every state in the nation, and we're focused on driving growth in the middle market. So we represent over 90,000 investors, owner-operators, and professional service providers that work on corporate transactions. So check us out if you don't know who we are. And then before we get on to Ben, as always, I want to do a big shout out to all of our platinum sponsors without whom we couldn't do the programs that we do. So when you think about doing business, think about Boulay and Bremer Bank Data Site, CIBC, Highland Bank, Lathrop GPM, Lurie, Oxbow, Quasar Capital Corporation, Redpath and Company, CAST, TriNet, and then our media partner, Twin Cities Business Magazine and Allied Executives. So thank you and our sincerest gratitude for all of your support. And now, again, everybody who's come on, please mute your volumes. We will take questions throughout the chat. And if you do not have a device that allows you to chat, you can text your questions to 612-590-1041. And any questions, just put it in the chat or text us. That number's on the screen, 612-242-6800. And now I'd like to bring in Will Roach. Will Roach is a friend. Oh, somebody's not muted. There we go. Will Roach is a friend of mine. He's an ACG board member. He's also the chair of our corporate programs. So Will, I'm going to have you take it away and introduce Ben.
Well, thank you, Nikki, and good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. Hope everyone I hope this finds you all happy, safe, and well. ACG's been running the Corporate Connections Committee for many years, basically trying to provide programming and visibility and opportunities for the corporate C-suite business owners, executives, owner-operators. So we're thrilled to have Ben VandenWymelenberg here today to talk a little bit about his recent economic pivot that WOODCHUCK USA has gone through recently. Ben is a young 30-year-old who helped start WOODCHUCK USA about 8 years ago. He is currently holding a techie family member. I tend to rely on our high school kids, but with that, Ben, we're excited to hear about WOODCHUCK shifting gears to survive.
Well, cool. Thanks for Thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate it. Very excited to share, about our recent pivot, and really also, I want to make this as interactive as possible. So for those of you who are on this on your computer, we're going to be utilizing this chat feature on the right-hand side quite a bit. I'll be asking questions to kind of poll, and I'll say, type in a 1 or type in a 2. So please, be interactive here, and feel free to ask any questions that you might have. I'm going to talk a little bit about our business, what we did in the past, and then I'm going to play a video about our recent pivot, and I'll talk about that a little bit. But I really want to make this, like I said, interactive. I think a lot of us as business owners have questions, and even frankly, a month ago, we were in a completely different place than we are right now. So yeah, Will, is there anything else you wanted to go through before I kind of kick it off, or?
No, yeah, let's go.
Awesome. Well, sounds good. So the first thing I'd like to poll here is how many of you have a business, or how many of you in the past month or month and a half have had either furlough or let employees go? And I want you to type a 1 in if you have had to do that, and I want you to type a 2 in if you have not. So just go ahead and type them in on the right-hand side there. So it looks like, yeah, a handful to maybe 30% or so have had to do something like that, maybe 40%. So I guess kind of rewinding a little bit further, that's good to know. That's good to know, everybody. Thanks for participating there. So yeah, kind of rewinding back a little bit. So I started Woodchuck 8 years ago, just out of the architecture program. Bootstrapped everything kind of from the beginning, and we really never had a lot of resources, I should say, to kind of do what we were doing. And from early on, our culture has been a kind of a scrappy, go do it, go get it done type of culture. And I think, for those of you who are familiar with Traction, our 3 core values are beast mode, premium, and no fucking boundaries. So those are things that are broadcasted both internally and externally. And, for most companies, that'd probably be a pretty aggressive or not a very PC set of values. Those are our values, and those have been our values for the last 8 years. And I truly believe that because of those values and because of the culture that we have built, that is the only thing that allowed us to kind of pivot through this time, because we had everyone step in. We were used to change. We were used to doing things premium and stepping into it in a new and different way. And I truly do believe that because we're all on the same page with that, we're able to pivot. But again, kind of zooming back, for those of you who don't know what Woodchuck USA does, we make all different types of custom wood products. So wood phone cases, wood journals, wood business card holders, and we do a lot of gifting for Fortune 50 and Fortune 500 companies, all the way down to small one-offs and two-offs. Well, exactly a month ago, as of this Tuesday, we had we had furloughed about 10 of our employees. As most of you know, almost all the events that were happening got completely canceled, either canceled, shut down, or whatever it was. And that was about 50% of our revenue stream coming in. So looking to the future at that point, we were like, oh shit, what are we going to do here? We have to be able to structure for, 6 months of whatever this could be at least, and then, reassess at that time. So as hard as it was, and that was probably one of the hardest things, and for those of you who typed in 1 in here, you've experienced or had to experience, it was really, really tough for us. It took us about 2 years to build the team that we had, and we had an absolutely A+ phenomenal team. And as I'm sure a lot of you experienced, this wasn't like a normal, we've had to fire people before, right? A lot of us have had to get rid of people before. This wasn't a normal situation. This wasn't like you suck at your job or you violated all of our rules for the past year and a half. These were incredible employees. These were incredible people that were doing a great job. It was just, we couldn't support that, that infrastructure anymore. So I think those were some of the hardest, and again, we did technical furloughs because it's different for those of you who don't know. So we were hoping to bring everybody back. Well, this was on a Thursday. On Saturday, I was driving back from up north because I was planning to go run the lasers. We had gotten rid of a bunch of our people, and we were afraid and kind of concerned that the stay-at-home thing was going to get put in place sooner and that we wouldn't get a critical status. So essentially, John and myself, the two owners, were going to have to go make this one project that we were legally obligated to make, and we were legally obligated to make for the next couple months. So I was headed back to go do that, and as you can probably imagine, probably not in the best mind state, right? We just had to let go a bunch of our people, and it was not ideal.
Get rid of
I got a call from a buddy, Charlie, and I'll play you guys a quick video in a minute here. I got a call from a buddy, Charlie, saying, hey, I have a contact at Alina, or a friend at Alina. They need 10,000 of these face shield things. Do you think that you could make them? And, my first response to pretty much everything on the sales side is absolutely. So I said, hey, bring it over this afternoon. We'll check it out. This is like 9 p.m. We made the first couple prototypes at night. We had our first order from them, Alina, on Sunday. And then I posted a LinkedIn video. And I will dive more into kind of our marketing strategy and things like that on this as I dive into it. But I posted it on LinkedIn. I posted it on Facebook and just basically told people in a very simple fashion, hey, we're making these face shields. We're shifting 50% of our production, kind of opening it up for these face shields. If you need these things, call us. Well, within the first 48 hours, we had over 500,000 units on order. And what we learned very quickly was that there was a huge, huge need for these things in the marketplace. So that really shifted what we are doing right now. And again, I'll kind of dive into that a little bit more. But essentially where we're at right now, we have over 450 people working on 3 shifts, 24/7, making these face shields. And we're making now over 250,000 units per day. We are one of the largest face shield manufacturers in the United States as of now on the past month. And we are the largest 3M partner by about 10x making these shields. So we've pivoted in a pretty significant way, but the thing I want to go back to and kind of what I'll rewind to is that Monday after. So it was Saturday, Sunday, we made the prototypes, we posted. On Monday, we got to bring back 3/4 of the people we had furloughed. So they were furloughed for 2 days, actually technically a day and a half, which was, I don't know, for me, that was really, really cool. For us to be able to do that, and for them. It was kind of funny, but also kind of not funny at the same time. They came back and I was like, oh, how was your furlough for a day and a half? So anyway, we did that. And here's the thing. Our Monday morning meetings, we have Monday morning meetings every single week, even in non-corona time. And our Monday morning meetings are a time that typically we're celebrating people for the core values that they've shown over the past week. Right, so we have this little whiteboard in our office. The whole team gets together and we go through premium, beast mode, and no fucking boundaries. So what are some things that people did that were premium last week? What were some things that people did that they showed no boundaries last week? So on and so forth. We go through the whole thing. And then we also go through our tree planting numbers. So for those of you who don't know, Woodchuck USA, we plant a tree for every single product we sell. We've planted over 2 million trees on 6 different continents. And that is that is really the core of what Woodchuck USA is. It's a social component that we want to, essentially protect our nature spaces for future generations to come. And that really is the core of that organization. So we celebrate that. We talk about that. And that Monday morning meeting is so important for a lot of different reasons. But this Monday morning meeting was probably one of the most important ones we've had in a long time. And essentially, I got up there and said, hey guys, and at this time, we had 32 or 37 people, I think, on board at the meeting. And I essentially said, hey guys, look, here's the deal. These are super crazy times. We are all going to have to completely change here. We are not going to be making wood products. We are going to be making these face shields. We are going to pivot 180 degrees, all of us together. And we already have 500,000 units on order. So purchasing, we're going to be purchasing materials for these face shields, and it's going to be in volumes that are 50 times larger than we're used to dealing with. Assembly and manufacturing, we're going to be making and assembling these things on a volume and a scale 50 times greater than we're used to. Sales, same thing. And we went through basically kind of a mindset coaching essentially exercise that day, and really level setting what it was that we were going to be doing over the next couple weeks, maybe months, who knows really. That day was really, really important because that day kicked everybody off on the same page. We were all in an instant going in the same direction with the same velocity, with the same intensity. And that was really, really critical for us to be able to get to where we're at right now. So that ability to pivot, that ability to move has made us, one of the largest face shield manufacturers already now in the U.S. We're producing more than Ford and Apple as far as these face shields go. I still think technically we're the largest, but we're waiting on some data to come back from 3M. And the most important thing here is what we were able to do for the frontline medical community. Woodchuck was not a multi-billion-dollar organization, medical manufacturer prior to this. We were a small 30-some employee wood products manufacturing company. What happened, though, in that time is we stepped up. We started reaching out to other American manufacturers who also stepped up, and different distribution partners who also stepped up. In the video I'm about to play you guys of 3M, who also said, holy shit, this little manufacturer is crushing it. We should figure out how we can help them. And that partnership, that relationship kind of accelerated things on a different trajectory. So I'm going to play this video for you guys. I want to open it up for a few questions. So as I'm playing this video, if you guys have questions, please type them in the comment box on the right-hand side, and I'll kind of read through them while we're watching this video. So here we go with the video. Whoops.
Are you screen sharing? Oh, there we go.
Hey Ben, Charlie calling. We got a hospital system that called and said that they run out of face shields this week. We need to figure out a way that we can produce 10,000 face shields by Wednesday. Give me a call.
Hey Charlie, got your voicemail about face shields. I think we can do that. When can you meet?
Within 24 hours, we had working prototypes. Within 48 hours, we had a massive amount of orders to supply hospitals across the United States.
Hey Ben, we just got about 4 more hospitals calling that they're running out of these things.
Social and LinkedIn is getting a ton of attention. I think we're going to have to figure out how to make more of these. Over 2,009.
We've reached out to everybody we know. I just don't think the vendors are ready for this.
It was supposed to be here today, but now they pushed it back. They're at least 2 weeks out. We just got a direct line into 3M. I think this is going to help solve a lot of our problems.
I think this is going to help save a lot of lives.
So that was a video we just released on Tuesday to talk about and to release our 3M preferred distribution status that we partnered up with them on. So I'm going to open it up to some questions. I'm going to just read them from the right-hand side here and pick out a couple of them. Will and Nikki, feel free to moderate, or if there are questions that you guys have as well, please feel free to chime in.
Perfect.
Okay, so question from Kathy Swanson. You mentioned you lost 50% of your revenue due to COVID. Does the shift to face shields get you back, or mostly back, from a revenue point of view? We've, as you can imagine, so we were at 45 employees. Now we're at 450, not all technical employees, a lot of subcontractors, but this is exponentially exploded what we were doing from a revenue point of view before. It's a completely different channel with completely different margins and completely different distribution and supply chain. It is truly a completely different thing. Actually, from a Woodchuck standpoint, we have started to see some slow orders start to trickle back in. Thank God we had about 50% of that revenue that was consistent. That was an annually reoccurring deal. But we have actually started to see orders pick back up. And from a commerce perspective, I talk with a lot of my e-commerce friends and other companies that are more based e-commerce even than us. And they've seen kind of the same thing. They saw about a 50% dip immediately. Things started to trickle back slowly. And now the online purchasing is actually, for a lot of them, back to 75% plus of where they were at before. That's a great question.
Ben,
Yes.
we've got a couple of questions talking about how did you find 400 employees so quickly? You mentioned subcontractors.
Yeah, so we have three, well, technically now 4 different subcontractors that are staffing agencies. And so we're housing 3 of those staffing agencies in a facility. We have a 100,000 square foot facility now that we're subleasing from Eric's Bike Shop over in Northeast. There was immediate availability. My real estate partners from Interstate Real Estate Development had that as a partnership. We moved over there within 2 or 3 days. And that's how we found most of it. There's a lot of other companies that are kind of ready to get in as well. So we have, I'd say, 5 or 6 different companies on the docket ready to go. There was a lot of contingency planning in that. So obviously COVID, what happens if one line gets sick or someone gets sick there? Thank God, knock on wood, no one has gotten sick yet. We're doing all the right things. We're checking temperatures. We're making sure people are spaced. They have all the PPE because we're making it availability which is really, really good. But, we had to do and still have a lot of contingency planning in place. And I think one of the coolest things I want to resonate, and if I say this 6 times today, that's fine, because I really want to make sure it gets across. My sense, I already had like a ton of American spirit and pride before this pandemic, but the amount of people and the amount of American manufacturers and companies that have stepped up in this time has been absolutely probably one of the most incredible things and most amazing things I've ever seen in my entire life. We have all different types of companies stepping in to ask how they can help in any which way, whether it's donating meals or donating food for the employees. We've had like 16 or so different meals for 450 people donated from people that they just want to help. Companies like Raisin Cane's, Izzy's Ice Cream, Taco Bell, just donating the stuff. It's been absolutely incredible to see companies and people step up in this time. One of the videos, if you guys are on YouTube that we posted, it was last week, we highlighted one of the employees that are assembling the shields. And again, from myself all the way down through the entire chain, the people also that are stepping up to manufacture these things are essentially, potentially putting themselves at risk, right? We don't know. They don't know. But the kind of philosophy that they have of, I am doing my part to help out and help these frontline providers get the medical PPE that they need has just been absolutely incredible. One of the other questions I saw in here that I want to answer is, describe how the equipment you had translated to making face shields, or was it strictly labor or some new tools? So our philosophy from the beginning has been nature back to people, jobs back to America. And that was our mission statement from day one, 8 years ago when we started Woodchuck. And a big part of that was building our own manufacturing facility. At pretty much any point in the 8 years, we could have, like a lot of other companies did, outsource the manufacturing to China or to Mexico and made probably 25 to 30% more on the products. That was never something that we wanted to do, because a big part of our core was making the stuff and actually creating jobs along with making a product. Us manufacturing this and manufacturing our products and kind of building that over the past 8 years prepared us with a variety of machines to instantaneously the next day, I think the next day we were manufacturing 25,000 units a day. Just our machines here, and within a couple days after that, we got up to 50,000 units a day just on our machines. Now, since then, we've gone to 3 different processes. We have rotary die stamping now is the primary one. So for those of you who don't know what that is, it's basically like this kind of log-looking thing, and it's got dies on it, and it just rolls the stuff through. And that can produce about 400,000 units of shields per day from a product perspective. So whatever, we've gone down a different path, but the thing that allowed us to get to these first orders immediately and essentially provide a really quality product immediately was our ability and was our, capacity to make the stuff right away, because we manufactured it ourselves.
Ben, could you take it one step further? Did you need additional capital or financing for new equipment? And was that difficult, knowing that everyone's going through their PPP applications with the banks?
Yeah, so we, there's an unfortunate and fortunate piece of this from a hospital perspective. A lot of hospitals were getting scammed by people that were saying they were doing what we were doing, whether it was masks or shields or whatever, and they were all requiring money up front, right? They all required an ACH or a wire transfer, which we do as well. Because frankly, up until that point, I mean, we had just for load 10 people, we were not sitting on a load of cash. We were relatively well leveraged with the bank, and we do have a great banking relationship, but we were relatively well leveraged, and us trying to get more cash probably wasn't going to happen. So we also had to say, hey, we need at least 50% down, 50% delivery. And a lot of the hospitals were used to doing the full everything up front, which really helped us out from a cash flow perspective. As we continued down the chain and learned how many banks or how many hospitals and providers were getting burned from that, we've started kind of opening up those terms, especially if they're reputable organizations. But yeah, we had to ask for everything up front, or 50% up, 50% on shipment, just because of where we were from a company standpoint.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can pull another one of these questions. Otherwise, Nicole or Will, feel free to moderate these questions that are coming in and shoot them over. Okay.
Well, I think Tim Ellis had a question, Ben, and it kind of played off what you were just answering. But how are you planning for when the medical market supply chain gets overstocked and orders get reduced or canceled? Do you have a ramp down plan, or are you planning to keep this volume going for the long term, which is another question on what are you planning to do for the future, with this? So
yeah, that's a great question. So early on, we had another company that was talking to us about a different kind of time that they had gone through, in which a similar situation happened. They ramped up, they pre-bought a bunch of material, and there was a cliff at the end of the ordering cycle. And I think they were making like medical testing kits or something like that, like 15 years ago. And their advice was, hey, make sure you're not getting too deep into your raw materials. Make sure you're not getting too deep into a lot of these pre-buys, and you're sitting there at the end of the cliff, essentially, when all the orders shut off with 3 million units of face shields, because that's going to take you 13 years to go through after this. So we were very, very cautious for the first 2 or 3 weeks. And that caused a lot of supply chain issues. So at that time, our lead time was about 2 weeks or maybe 10 days, which we didn't lose any orders from, because frankly, most of the other orders coming from overseas were at least a month out, or at least a couple weeks out. But it was causing a lot of chaos between all the assembly groups and us. So once we got the relationship with 3M and we were able to kind of submit these larger open POs and coordinate that raw materials more, we did place a larger kind of PO for 4.5 million units of raw materials to ship over the next couple weeks. And essentially we did that under the assumption of, hey, here's where the trend line is going. Here's where we are trending right now. If at the end of the day we end up with 3 million units, we do still feel confident that we'll be able to sell these now into businesses that are opening back up, which I know we'll be able to do as well. It might take a little bit longer, but we have segmented, like I was kind of saying earlier, we have segmented Woodchuck Medical. We incorporated that a week and a half ago, and this will be a new arm and a new branch and a completely new company for us. And we will be distributing just made in America PPE supplies. We'll be continuing to make the mask. We'll be continuing to open it up and doing other pieces of PPP for the future, and that will kind of be a separate and new chain for us. One of the questions on here was, you went from wood to medical. What type of certifications or they're saying their food manufacturing did you have to have? One of the things that allowed us to do the face shields was 2 different things. One was we were manufacturing them to the Johns Hopkins standards. So basically, in layman's terms, the restrictions on face shields are completely different than the restrictions on face masks. So face shields, actually the FDA came out and said, we are not, essentially we don't care, make face shields. We don't have to approve the face shields. We don't have to certify them. You don't have to be ISO certified. You don't have to be FDA approved from a facility perspective. Essentially, make the face shields. And that's why a lot of these companies were coming out, for example, Johns Hopkins, publishing standards of, hey, here's how you can make these things at home, right? The initial versions we had was a piece of plastic with a piece of foam that had an elastic band stapled to it. The piece that allowed us to do that was not that we were FDA approved or not that we were ISO certified, which now we are actually moving into and we're ramping into because we know we want to do this long term. But yeah, that was a great question.
Ben, you talked a little bit about the 3M partnership. Describe that. What did it provide you, and how did you access that?
Yeah, so that was accessed solely by us posting on social. 2 of their reps reached out. And then it kind of turned into something bigger from there. They saw, hey, holy shit, these guys are making a couple 100,000 units right now. So they reached out. They said, hey, how can we help? And literally, I was texting one of them last night, I think at 11:30 p.m. We essentially have like a couple 3M people that are here on a daily basis that are helping us with all different types of problems, supply chain problems, shipment problems, and helping us solve with their capacity. So we became what's called a preferred converter. Typically this takes, 7 to 10 years-ish, and you got to hit certain milestones and do certain millions each year with them in order to kind of get this preferred status. Well, due to the orders that the volumes that we were ordering, they were able to expedite that, and we got that within about 3 days. So they could be helping us to this capacity. Like I was saying, I was texting with the one guy last night at 11:30. One of them actually rode with our guy in a truck to go pick stuff up at one of their distribution centers in Wisconsin. A 3-hour drive in the semi. So he made sure they put it on our truck. So literally, they are like hand in hand with us through this. It's not just like oh, hey, how can we help you out? Some kind of, corporate BS. It's literally, they have like guys helping us.
Well, that's awesome. So if you have more questions, please go out to the chat section. Ben, I kind of I'm just curious a little bit about the emotional aspect of this, and couch it in the context of leadership. You talked about getting team alignment so quickly with this pivot, but could you discuss the mindset of, for you or the actual employees, the one extreme of fear of losing jobs to quickly shifting and really being a real player, helping healthcare communities and professionals with their safety, kind of that relief of keeping a job versus having a positive impact.
I really feel for the handful of people that we had to furlough and then got brought back. I know I was kind of joking about it a little earlier, it was only a day and a half, but I can only imagine how tough that was for them, because it was super tough for me, and I wasn't the one losing my job. So the fact that they lost their job, and yes, they get to come back. I mean, that's incredible. They get to come back, but they just lost their job. And that was something that they built up too, over the past year and a half. I think the first meeting, like I was saying, that we had was a good level set for everyone though, including those people. And it was, hey, we're just normal people here. We're trying to do the best that we can. And this is what we're going to do to help save people's lives. And the kind of making it an existential thing that was way, way, way bigger than who we were or what our circumstances were, was a big part of getting everybody on that train, getting everybody on the ship, and all headed in that direction. Because just like in our business before, where we tried and really focus on how are we helping save the planet by planting trees and helping engage people with nature, and really keeping that as the focus of what our model is. It was the same thing here, but significantly bigger. It was literally helping save people's lives. And I think that helped kind of level set for everybody. Hey, you know what? I might have had to go through a couple shitty days there, and I thought I lost my job, but this is way bigger than a couple days of me feeling down about that.
Yeah. So Mary has a question. I know Vice President Pence was at 3M. Are you getting any visibility or any political interactions?
Sorry, I missed the first part of that question.
Well, Vice President Pence was in town earlier at 3M. Mary's curious if you're going to get any political interactions because of this.
We'll see. I'll just say we'll see. Nothing's solidified yet, but yeah, we are working closely, very, very closely with 3M to access the pieces of their umbrella that we can utilize to help save more lives. I was on the phone with one of their directors yesterday and saying, hey, we'd love to do a bunch of stuff with you guys, but frankly, some of your parts of your train move a little bit too slow for us. What parts of the train can we work together on to help get this immediate need out there, which is frankly right now communication. There are still huge gaps in some of this PPE equipment. And frankly, we have, almost 1 million units sitting on our floor ready to ship today over at our warehouse. So how do we get that message out? Well, we get that out by simply communicating in the best way that we possibly can with the best people, with the best, kind of umbrella of sphere of influence, right? And that's one thing I would definitely ask all you guys that are on here today, is to think about 1 or 2 people in your immediate circle that are in the healthcare profession. It might be a wife, husband, daughter, mom or dad or nephew or niece or something. Think about 1 to 2 people in that medical field and ask them, do you guys have all the PPE that you guys need right now? Because frankly, there are still gaps here, which frankly to me is kind of, it's not kind of, it's extremely concerning that there are still gaps at this point in time with so many people, frankly, doing, we're doing so many people doing masks. So ask the people. It comes back to communication because we can solve the problem, basically.
Yeah. So Ben, Zach has a question wondering, how do you prevent COVID spreading amongst your coworkers?
Yeah, that's a great question. So that's something that's definitely going to come back, as things potentially get opened back up here, is safety in the workplace. So what we are doing, we're following the best, kind of practices that exist right now. The first of which being everyone's temperature gets checked before they come into the workplace. So that's the first thing. The second thing is doing social distancing, 6 feet away. All of our stations are at least 6 feet away from one another. And then everyone also has a mask and a face shield. We have a couple disinfectant stations also across the facility, but that is what we are currently doing right now. And I know there's probably, for those of you, I'm assuming most of you are in Minnesota, but there are going to be some pretty good guidelines that are published, from my understanding, that are published prior to companies opening back up. But that's what we're currently doing.
And Georgie wants to know a little bit about, with your experience with the healthcare community, and now with all the talk of getting America back to work, what perspectives do you have as it relates to that balancing of healthcare, health and safety versus getting everyone back to work?
Wow, personal opinion. Trying to get in trouble. Personally, we've had a very different perspective on COVID since this happened. Zoe and I were in a Bible study 2 weeks ago, and the kind of theme was, how are you dealing with the grief that you're going through? And we've kind of at multiple different points, we have felt very, very blessed to be a part of the solution in this, because we have a very different perspective on it. The other thing Nikki was asking about is, she said, prior to coming on, she's like, well, you're going to be positive about this, right? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. I'm not going to be a Debbie Downer about this. This is absolutely, like I said, kind of early on, and for those of you who weren't on right away, this has been, in my opinion, one of the most incredible experiences from the perspective that so many people in so many companies have stepped up to the occasion to help in whatever way they can. And I think that has been absolutely so incredible. Now, on the flip side, there are a lot of businesses that are hurting and that may potentially go out of business after this. To be frank, prior to making these face shields, Woodchuck might have been down to 3 employees after this. It might have been me, John, and I don't know, an operator or something like that. I think we are very fortunate, for those of you who were able to receive the PPP money or have SBA loans. The SBA, for those of you that don't know this, the SBA has a 6-month now program that any of your loans you have with the SBA, they're paying principal and interest for 6 months. I am very impressed with the programs that have been put in place to help small businesses. So I think that is going to help a lot of them. But my personal, my opinion, kind of going back to the original question, is I think we all need to practice all of the safe tactics that we have. But, prolonging this for a significant amount of time after this, I think is going to do a lot more damage on our economy. And I think getting back to work is a great thing as long as we're doing it in a safe fashion. And frankly, there are going to be some people in some areas that aren't going to be able to do that due to their health risks and due to their, due to the issues that they are pre-existing conditions they have. But I do think we need to start trending back in that direction as soon as possible, so we can have people getting back to their jobs and our economy kind of getting back on track.
This is Nikki, and I'm going to add to that because it is like one of the big questions that I'm hearing from a lot of our members, from a lot of the businesses and folks out there, is really, what does this look like when you're going to bring people back into the workforce, and the mental, you know, you hit upon it a little bit, the mental side effects, you know, the fear, the anxiety. Some people are going to be great staying home and being virtual, whereas, you know, companies are looking at their workspaces. And then you talked about we're taking their temperature. How are you taking their temperature? Is there a temperature gauge on the doorway when they walk in? Is somebody manually taking their temperature? What does that look like? And if you touched upon one other thing I don't know if we hit was, how are you training all these new employees that you got? I don't know if we heard that or not, but just kind of bringing it all together so folks can kind of see what you're thinking and how you're really bringing them together to work, because that is their number one issue right now.
Yeah, you know, in times of uncertainty and chaos, people that are not used to uncertainty and chaos, you know, this is something I posted about in my first post of us doing this, is as entrepreneurs and business owners, most of us are used to a lot of change, risk, uncertainty, and frankly, a lot of business owners thrive in that. That's a situation in which they do great. That is not the case with most people. We are conditioned as humans to like stable, certain things that are safe, and we have to provide that for our employees when they're coming back. And I think this is really, really important. I'll talk about the technical details of taking people's temperatures and stuff like that. But as owners and as leaders, it is so important for us to kind of do what we did, you know, that first Monday, is a level set, is a transparent level set to them that explains what we all just went through is something that is completely out of our control. It's not their fault. It's not your fault. It is completely out of their control. However, this is what we're going to do moving forward. And it's up to you to set the pace, to set the tone, to create the culture, to create the environment in which them feels safe, which for them feels a little more consistent, which for them feels like there's a base here for me. There's a base in it, and it can be, and it's going to be okay. And that's up to us as business owners and leaders to set that pace and to set that culture. A big part of that is what you just said, the technical details of how you make them feel safe. And like I said, what we know right now, or what we are practicing as best practice, is checking people's temperatures, making sure they have face shields, making sure they have face masks, and making sure they're 6 feet apart at minimum. So how do we check their temperature? I don't know if I have the Amazon link still, but anyway, there's multiple different temperature gauges basically. And we have one person, yes, checking their temperature before they walk in. And it's this little radar gun thingy basically, and we have a couple of them, and they check their temperature. They make sure, like I said, knock on wood, you know, we haven't had anybody sick yet, but they check their temperature before they come in. And then everyone has masks and shields, and our people are wearing gloves too, but that might not be necessary in a lot of the work settings that you guys have. But we've created, and we have these sanitation stations all over the place. It is creating a culture which feels safe and protected for them so they can do their jobs.
Ben, Brett has a question. He was wondering about your thoughts on transition plans. How heavily do you think you will begin to concentrate in medical? As your business pivots back, will you add physical space for Woodchuck Medical? And it looks like you were in a temporary space. How about a whole new infrastructure, sales, product development, etc.?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So it will be a completely different arm. We will ramp back into Woodchuck products, the custom wood products, as events and things like that start coming back on. But it is a completely new business. I was talking with a couple of people about this yesterday. I think we've been fortunate here to have kind of a jump start into this program or into this business model, but it is a completely different sales cycle. It's a completely different margin structure. It's a completely different supply chain, model. So it will take a significant amount of time on the front end. Yes, we will be moving to a new space. We are specifically looking in a new market tax zone / opportunity zone for that. We were actually going to be moving the entire operation this last February. We put the pause button on that for another 6 months. to kind of see what other opportunities might pop up. We know we're going to have to be ISO certified. We know we're going to have to be FDA approved. So finding a space that's already a little bit conditioned in that direction is something now that we're looking for as well on that kind of ticket item list. But it's going to take some significant setup, structure, et cetera, for the first couple months here. And that is something I'm really focused on teeing up to set up a successful platform in the future. Now, we talked about this a little bit at the beginning too, but what that's probably going to require is some legislation around requirement of, USA made PPE in the future. One of my primary goals is to get down to a price point for the shields that beats China prices, which I think we'll be at in another 2 weeks, so we can compete, even without legislation, that we can compete on some of these PPE items, even without legislation. So that's one of my goals.
I think the whole supply chain for so many industries it's going to be under major scrutiny here in real time. So Ben, talk a little bit about that entrepreneurial spirit. I'm kind of curious about the speed to the market and this opportunity. 99.9% of the time, companies are doing a lot of due diligence around new market opportunities versus maybe a little bit of a instinctive or a gut feel on it. In the context that a lot of companies have lost revenues, they maybe have a new normal with their clients, current clients, and considering ways to leverage or grow that part of their business, or look at other ways to pivot, such as what you did. Talk about lessons learned that as you look back, what were the important factors in kind of this pivot?
I think one of the most important ones, and this is super cliche, but it is really true, is making sure that we stick to our wits from a culture perspective, and making sure that the people that we're bringing on, or the team members essentially that we're associating with, or contractors that we're working with, all align with our core values. Right away, early on within the first week, we had a couple people / players that, if we would have had time to really vet out, wouldn't have been the right people or the right kind of fit for our culture and based on what we had built. And those people are already gone, or those organizations are already gone. But I think we one of the lessons there was, hey, we were just trying to press the go button on as many things as we possibly could. But we know now that even though we're doing that, we can't forget about our core values and what we're doing and how we operate, how we work, because it's not going to jive long term. So I think as people look to pivot, stick to your core values, stick to your core of how you operate, be authentic about how you like to operate and how you work, and look for those other opportunities. Don't completely switch your business plan or your core values or your model just to try and make a couple bucks, basically.
Perfect, thanks. Tim Ellis has a question. Are you increasing the physical cleaning of your facility, door handles, common areas, and as well as the cleaning equipment and tools between your shifts?
Yeah, I don't know the exact schedule now, but I know we went up to twice a day. Actually, it might be after every shift now. That's a great question. I don't know the technical details, but yeah, we used to get our facility cleaned twice a week, and I think it's after every shift now. Is it after every shift? Yeah, after every shift now that gets cleaned. Okay.
We just have a few more minutes, so if you have any last questions, please type them in. Ben, how's this been affecting you, and on a personal level with quarantining with fiance and kind of hanging out that way?
Yeah, so like I was saying, it's been a little bit different for us as we've kind of been working 24/7. I think this feels for us a lot different. We are out and about practicing the safe, procedures, but, we're looking at new facilities on an every other day basis. We're checking in with our team members. So it's been a little bit different. So we actually got engaged like a week before all this stuff went down. So we haven't actually got to celebrate, like being engaged yet, or like have a party with all of our friends. So we're kind of looking forward to that. And we close on a house in 2 days too. So we got a lot of craziness going on over here. But we're excited to get back to normal. And I personally am excited to have some drinks with some of my friends after this.
Awesome. I think we all are. Yeah. And thanks to Nikki for the Thursday happy hours with ACG at 4:30. Giselle has a question. How do you envision the post-pandemic reality for U.S. business?
Wow, that's a great question and a loaded question. Again, I think it's not going to be good for a lot of companies. And there are going to be companies that go out of business. And kind of your earlier question, I think the longer this gets postponed, that we're going to see an exponential rate of those businesses that are just trying to hang on right now, not be able to make it, even with the incredible programs that were put in place. I think for the other companies that are able to do what we were talking about today, pivoting, sticking to your core values, sticking to your authentic business, and finding new ways that still align with that to generate revenue, those companies are going to succeed, and I think they're going to do significantly better than they were before. It's going to challenge them. It's going to push them to be better, both personally and professionally. And those companies are going to succeed. And so I think there's going to be two different realities, and maybe a lot in between. But I think if we as business owners and leaders can stay focused on the positive and stay focused on those core values and stay focused on what we can do that's still relatively in line with that and new opportunities, you guys are going to be successful.
Yeah, that's great, Ben. Thank you. I've got 8:26, so I just want to quickly just say thanks to Ben. I heard one specific ask, and that's if you have an individual or two that is in the healthcare space that is needing help with personal protection equipment, PPE, please reach out to Ben. I think he would be a great resource for that. I wanted to just take it back one step. And so again, there's a lot of feedback when I started, so I cut it off. My name's Will Roach. I'm with Baker Tilly and chair the Corporate Connection Committee. Wanted to let you know that we're looking at future webinars, maybe every 2 weeks or so. We're looking at topics such as Tale of Two Stories, growth in this time, surviving in this time. Another could be around how to reopen your business once we get through this, things around OSHA. You've been PPP funded, now what? How are you changing your business model? Leadership and communication, as well as Ben talked a little bit about wire fraud, so cybersecurity and wire fraud in this COVID world. So with that, I want to thank Ben on an awesome story, and thank you for that. And I'm going to turn it back to Nikki Vincent.
Thank you, Will. Thank you, Ben. That was fantastic. That was really, really great presentation. And you mentioned it, just how awesome all these companies are and what they're doing. And I can't help but think how great the Bold Awards is going to be, which is where I actually met you the first time. So I keep thinking all these amazing companies who are pivoting and shifting and being innovative and helping others, it's going to be pretty amazing. So as Will said, we are going to start hosting corporate connections every other Friday, at least through the month of May. And PPP forgiveness, I got my funding, now what? I'm really excited to say that's actually happening next Tuesday at the Lunch and Learn. Redpath and Company will be talking about that. And Frederickson and Byron is going to cover, excuse me, distressed M&A. So we have over 300 people that are registered for next week's event. That's the largest turnout we've had. And so again, if you cannot join us, whether it's for these breakfasts or it's on a Tuesday Lunch and Learn, we do post the audio clips up on our website. So check us out and follow us on social media. And Ben, thank you again. We love what you're doing. I share this everywhere. I have a lot of friends in the healthcare field. So I do send it out to everybody I know because I think it's fantastic. Everybody have a great weekend. And Ben, thank you.
You've been awesome, and thanks again, guys, for having me. And I did share the link to that video in the chat with everyone. So if you're looking to share, please feel free to copy and paste that and share away with your circles. Everyone have a fantastic day and have a great weekend.
Ben, before you head out, I just want to mention Erica Miller said one business that really needs help is funeral homes. Have you checked them out?
Have I checked out a funeral home lately? I have not.
She said they really need help, so maybe they need masks. I don't know, but who knows? Anyway, something to think about. Have a great weekend, everyone, and take care.
Thanks, guys.